Good morning. Let's just take a moment of silence as we remember our longtime UNS member, Hecky Powell. We surround him in love and light and peace as he continues his spiritual journey. Welcome to Unity on the North Shore virtual Sunday service. I'm Vivian Morrison, your worship assistant this morning. Today our speaker will be Senior Minister Reverend Kurt Condra. Our guest musicians are singer and songwriters Bob Sima and Shannon Plummer. Olga Laluz is serving as our prayer chaplain, and we'll have a special sharing by Kent Stanton. Please join me as we begin with prayer. Grateful and loving God, with quiet minds and full hearts, we open ourselves to your power and your presence. We gratefully receive the wonderful energies of divine light and love pouring in and through us now. And we affirm we are here in this place on this morning for a divine purpose. We trust that purpose is now being fulfilled, for we know we are now in the presence of pure being. We are immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. And so it is. Amen.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Bob Sima, and this is Shannon Plummer. We're grateful to be here. We're going to share a song in honor of Hecky, who we just met, I think, just through the conversations before we all logged on here. And this song came to me immediately that we would do. It's a newer song. We just released it, and I think it's a perfect song for Hecky right now. It's called The Measure. Tell me, what is the measure of a life well done? Tell me, how do you count an uncountable song? A collection of your minutes, your hours and your days, the number of heartbeats, breaths, and the lines on your face. It's a nebulous affair, pulling value from the air. Was it your good face, your good name, your everlasting image in a picture frame? Or is it nothing you can hold on to, and everything that flowed through you? When your hands are empty and your heart is full, and you could smile on your very last day, there is nothing you need to measure, and nothing you need to say, and nothing to take with you but what you have given away. It's never the riches and all it brings, accumulating things. In the final hour curtain call, did you sing the song you came to sing? It's the thoughts and the words and the actions you choose. It's paying it forward and speaking your truth. It's a call to love a little deeper, kiss just a little bit sweeter. When your hands are empty and your heart is full, and you can smile on your very last day, there is nothing you need to measure, and nothing you need to say, and nothing to take with you but what you have given away. You're an accumulation celebration of the lives that you touch. You're a celebration of the wind and the dust. You were put here for a reason. Be of service and be a beacon. You're a song, you're a light, you're a sacred holy sight. Take a long, slow walk through your darkest night and love just a little bit deeper. And kiss just a little bit sweeter when your hands are empty and your heart is full, and you could smile on your very last day. Well, there is nothing you need to measure, and nothing you need to say, and nothing to take with you but what you have given away. You're here to get love, give love, feel love, see love, be love, believe in love, and love just a little bit deeper, just a little bit sweeter. I said to give it all up, love, give it away, give it all up, give it away, give it all up, love, give it away, give it all up, give it away. And when your hands are empty and your heart is full, and you can smile on your very last day. There is nothing you need to measure, and nothing you need to say, and nothing to take with you but what you've given away.
Unity is a positive, practical approach for spiritual living based on the teachings of Jesus and the power of prayer. We believe there is truth and beauty in every spiritual tradition, and so we honor the many paths to the one God. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey of faith, please know that you are always welcome here. Our vision and mission reflect who we are as a community and how we fulfill our spiritual purpose. So now let's speak our vision and mission statements aloud, for we know that by conscious intention and the power of the spoken word, we activate the power of God to express in our lives and in our world. First, our vision statement, word screen, together, centered in spirit, we co-create a world that works for all. And our mission, we are an empowering, diverse spiritual community experiencing spirit within to create a peaceful and prosperous world. And if this is your first Sunday with us, we want to extend a loving welcome to you. Upon discovering unity, to many of us, myself included, it felt like coming home. We hope your experience this morning is equally powerful and that you will return. And we also invite you to join our spiritual garden chat. It's virtual after this session. Stay on and chat with us.
This is calling from the future, an echo of an ancient past. To all the peaceful warriors, to hear this call at last. To keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. That's your part to sing it with us. Keep your head up. And keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. We're standing on the edge of the darkest day from which we can't retreat. So we rise for the ones who came before and dig in both your feet. And keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. Come on and sing it. And keep your head up and lift to the sky. Be humble, be hungry, be loved. Sing that with us. Be humble, be hungry. Be humble, be hungry, be loved. For those who dare to dream this dream and keep the love alive, don't let anyone tell you can't change the world with your smile. And keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. Come on and sing it out loud. And keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. Sing it. Be humble, be hungry, be loved. Be humble, be hungry, be loved. Well, blame is not the game, and the map is not the terrain. So hear the call and feel the earth and find your own way. And keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. And keep your head up and lift your heart to the sky. Be humble, be hungry, be loved. Be humble, be hungry, be loved. Be humble, be hungry, be loved.
Thank you, Shannon and Bob. Good morning. My name is Martin Taylor, and I'm serving as prayer chaplain this morning. So let's begin by reflecting together on today's daily word. As I read, allow the words you hear spoken to become a silent and powerful meditation within you. The daily word for today is faith. I invest my faith only in possibilities for good. The parable of the talents of the Gospel of Matthew tells the story of a wealthy man entrusting sums of money to 3 of his servants before leaving on a journey. When the man returns, he praises and rewards the 2 servants who, through wise investments, have doubled the funds entrusted to them. A 3rd servant who, acting in fear, hid the money entrusted to him, receives no reward. The divine faculty of faith is that part of my spiritual inheritance that is more valuable than money. I invest my faith wisely by believing and trusting that possibilities for good are present, even where good has not yet manifested, and I act on that belief. My positively directed faith brings rich rewards in consciousness. And the Bible verse from Matthew 25, verse 21, you have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And as we continue to focus on prayer, I invite you to relax, let go, and focus on your breath. If you feel comfortable to do so, close your eyes as we take a gentle, slow, deep breath in. And as we release the breath, we relax and release with it all of our external thoughts and concerns. Take another breath in, and on the release, go into our heart space, that sacred space within where we can feel the presence of the divine. God is present in and around us and our loved ones, right here, right now, as always. Let us rest in the silence for a moment holding in prayer yourself and your loved ones. Divine Spirit, as we begin to emerge from days of confinement, as nature begins to unfold and emerge as well, we thank you for your support, and remember that we are emerging again into your world, your moments. We insist that your courage, your guidance, your love and compassion will help us to make this world a world that works for all. And we know that your joy is available to us at all times, even those times when we may feel that it is not necessarily appropriate. Divine Spirit, we thank you for your gift of the life and work of our dear friend Hecky Powell. He has shown us your love and light in every encounter he had while on this earth. As he returns to his source with yet more love and light, we will long remember his loving presence with gratitude and the warmth he so often spread here. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen. If you would like to request a personal prayer during the service, you can enter it into the chat box, and our prayer team will pray over it for 30 days, and then forward it to Silent Unity at Unity Headquarters, where it will be prayed for another 30 days. Please remember, though, that this will be a community prayer, since we can all see what's written and in the chat box. There will also, later in the service, be information on other prayer support opportunities.
To all of my relations, I look you in the eye, 'cause we are all related. It's written in the sky, and we can sing this simple song to everyone along the way. And we can sing for the ones who've wronged, 'cause it heals the wounds from yesterday. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, and may you be loved. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, and may you be loved. May you be loved. And all of the beings and all of the creatures, they all hold the secret. They all are our teachers as we're learning the lessons of love, 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 love. Compassionate love. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, and may you be loved. May you be well, may you be happy, may you be peaceful, and may you be loved.
Thank you. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Bob. My goodness, it is divinely ordered that you're with us today. You've already opened my heart. couple of times I've had tears running already. So it's just beautiful that you're here. Thank you so much. You know, Memorial Day is always kind of a mix of emotions for me. I think I've talked about this before, but it's a time when, as a nation, right, we're remembering the sacrifices of those who gave their lives in support of the ideals that we stand for as a country. But it's also a time that we celebrate those very ideals. And it seems like Memorial Day has sort of had this evolution. It was begun shortly after the Civil War to celebrate and to honor the lives of the soldiers in the Union Army that had passed. And it wasn't until a few years later that they actually began to honor folks in the Confederacy as well. And it seems like over the years it has expanded so that veterans in all wars, U.S. veterans in all wars, were kind of included in our remembrance and our observance of that. And I think now finally we're at a place where we can maybe begin to open our hearts and minds to a space where we can recognize that all of those who have died in wars anywhere can be included and encompassed for the sacrifices that they have made. I see that as this like evolutionary pull. And at the same time as our celebration, our observance of Memorial Day has opened, it's also become a lot more than just honoring soldiers, right? It's a day off, it's a time to like rest. And this year in particular, it just feels like there's a space where the celebration is sort of giving way to a space where we're really able to kind of rest in an awareness of how much has been lost this year, you know, across the whole planet. No matter what nation you're from, where you are on the planet, this COVID-19 has just brought an immense sense of loss, not only of life, but of connection and relationships, of patterns that supported and sustained us, of income, of livelihood. There's just all this loss that we're sort of sitting in. And so as I'm sort of moving in this place now where we're literally kind of confined to space, at least social distancing if we do go out, but how is it that we find the courage to move into the kind of energy that Shannon and Bob have been singing about, right? To know that there's light beyond this, that there is love. How do we get to that space of being able to demonstrate that, even when we're standing in a space where it's dark, where the light might not yet be as visible, or if it is, it's just a spark behind us. And so I was turning to stories of, I guess I would call them courageous heroes, stories of heroes, and holding that question. How is it that they summon the courage to be able to move through the challenges that they had? And so what I'd like to do is just share 4 stories with you over the next few minutes. And I also, at the beginning of service, I invited folks to get familiar with the chat function, because what I would really like is that, I mean, I have my idea about how I think courage gets summoned by these heroes, but I would love it if we could kind of create a container here where it's a collective wisdom. So as I'm talking about these heroes, if you have something that comes to mind that feels like a valid answer to that, summoning courage in times of darkness, then I hope you'll feel free to share that in the chat stream. And then we can maybe have a deeper, richer conversation, because it will be ideas that arise out of the collective rather than just, you know, my own little sitting here in my sequestered apartment. So I invite you to just consider that as I share with you these 4 stories. And I mean, there's no question where I was going to start, right? Hecky is sort of the first story that I want to share. And I know for those of you who may not be a regular part of Unity on the North Shore in our community here, just the background you need to know is that Hecky's been a member. Hecky and his wife and family have been around Unity North Shore for decades. But bigger than that, he is just a presence and a power in the broader Evanston community and beyond. He's has been an incredible source of philanthropy, especially when it comes to supporting young people who were disadvantaged and maybe need a little extra support to be able to make their way. He was especially supportive of folks who then weren't necessarily college bound. He really understood that not everybody has that as their gift, but that they have plenty to give and bring and share. So he supported a lot of folks with scholarships to go to trade schools. One of my favorite stories is he owned a restaurant. Hecky's Barbecue is iconic here in Evanston. And my favorite story about this last week is really that one of his competitors, another restaurant owner, paid to have a sign dragged up in front of the restaurant, and the sign reads, "If a town ever had a king, we love you, Hecky Powell." So that kind of tells you how broadly he was adored, for those of you who may not have known that, and how dear we hold him in our hearts here in Evanston. But I wanted to share, there's been lots of TV coverage, there are lots of newspaper reports, you can check on, kind of the bigger stuff he's done. I wanted to share just kind of a personal insight I have into the amazing courage that he brought. Not too long ago, in this last year or so, our marketing team decided we were going to create this campaign, and it was going to be all about how people had applied our spiritual principles to create really wonderful outcomes in their lives, miracles even. And so I approached Hecky because I know that this has been, 10 or 20 years ago, that she walked through another change where he nearly died. He was part of a program where he had a liver transplant, and the prognosis was not good. I can remember him talking to me about, he told the docs, you do what you need to do, but I know that my job is to be aligned with my source. And so it truly was an ultimate, lots of miracles around that in terms of just the connections he made with people that were supporting the medical team, and just amazing miracle. Well, I wanted that to be the story that Hecky shared about how he practiced principle. And so I matched him up with the writer who was doing the reporting. And by the time Hecky sat down with Jim Marinu, who wrote the story, he decided that wasn't the story he wanted to tell. That was old news. Hecky was healed. He'd moved beyond that, and he wanted to share the story about how we can all be of service. And so he shared the story of the founding of the Forrest E. Powell Foundation, named in father of his dad, and the incredible work they do to empower and inspire and support others. So it was his message that is shared on our website now. You can go and read it. It's brilliant, but it's all about how we can be of service. That's how we become heroic, right? It's in service to others. And it wasn't so much about his own personal healing. He was all about, at that point in his journey, he was all about how we can all move to create a better world. So that's my perception of Hecky. So again, I would invite you to, if in my little rambling here, something occurs to you about what is it that Hecky was using or thinking or believing that helped him stay in that courageous place, to know that there is always a positive. That's the slogan that we ended up using on his interviews. There is always a positive. He lived by that in every circumstance. So if you've got any insights or ideas about how we might be able to emulate that, please share that in the chat stream. The next story I want to share with you is biblical in nature. It's the story of Esther and Xerxes. Many of you probably know it. Esther was a beautiful, beautiful young Jewish woman who basically won a beauty contest in the kingdom to be Xerxes' next wife. She was coached by her uncle Mordecai not to tell anybody about her Jewish heritage, because he knew of the prejudice and the racism that was evident in that culture, and so she didn't. And the story is filled with, oh my gosh, in Old Testament terms, it's a happy ending, but it's filled with politics and intrigue and massacre and all kinds of stuff. It gets very convoluted, but I happened to find a really wonderful poem written in verse that really describes the whole experience of how Esther found courage and demonstrated courage to be able to save the Jewish people through this thing. So it's called Esther's Courage by Bo Jackson. Xerxes ruled with random lust. His court approached with fear. His whimsy might be cruel or just, and Haman held his ear. Haman's hateful, murderous heart was filled with selfish pride, which turned against the man who worshipped Yahweh, Mordecai. Haman lied to Xerxes, and his twisted evil ruse convinced the king to grant the execution of the Jews. Mordecai told Esther then of Haman's vile plan, since her position in the court might thwart this evil man. But if she came to the royal court from the harem where they kept her, he might decline to see her with a gesture of his scepter. And this declining gesture would mean death for good Queen Esther. How could they escape this bind? How to change the monarch's mind? Approaching him, she just might find that her request would be declined. Uncertain now, she wavered, as she tried to count the cost. Mordecai said, Esther, if you don't go, you'll be lost. God will save us either way, despite the turns and twists. Who knows if you were put where you are for such a time as this? So Esther left the harem and approached the royal hall, willing to save her people by being willing to risk it all. There's a lot happens in those little verses. And of course, the ending of the story is that Esther prevails. The king is convinced and sees that Mordecai is the evil one among the court here. And so Haman actually is hanged on the gallows that were intended for Mordecai. So that's, in Old Testament terms, sort of divine justice. That's the happy ending. The evil is defeated. But I would invite you to think about if you had been in Esther's position, how might you have found that place of being able to stand in courage, to be able to approach knowing full well that your life was at risk? What is it you're thinking or believing? What is it that you do to be able to move in to that space of being able to stand in courage and stand for truth? Yeah. Okay, next story I want to share. This is from, again, we're going back to the early days of early days of our country's founding, right? Before Memorial Day was even a thing. This was back during the Civil War. And there's a woman named Mary Walker. And Mary Walker is actually, to this day, the only woman who has ever earned the Medal of Honor, been awarded the Medal of Honor. She's also the only civilian who was ever awarded the Medal of Honor. And as a surgeon, Mary saw that she could do good in this time when our country was being torn apart, and there were just so many injuries and deaths along the way. And so she went to the Army hospital and asked to be commissioned. And she was refused because that was men's work. But not to give up, Mary found the courage to continue and persevere, and so she started volunteering in that same Army hospital for no pay at all. She was just there to be of service and be of help. Eventually, they started to recognize her incredible skill, and she ended up being sent to the front lines between the North and the South, right? This is Confederacy and the Union Army. She was serving in the Union Army. Realizing that there were wounded in enemy territory, she crossed over into enemy lines to tend to hurt civilians, and she was captured and taken prisoner, and she spent the next few months in a prison of war camp. She eventually was released in a part of a prisoner exchange program, but again, as I mentioned, President Lincoln named her or awarded her with the Medal of Honor, the only woman to this day to have been awarded that, and one of only a handful of civilians. So as you think about her journey, she had this incredible capacity and gift, but this desire to make sure that that gift was being used in a space, in a place where it could be of greatest benefit. What did she rely on in order to sort of move her and keep her eyes sort of on the light in front of her? How did she stand in that space of courage? What do you imagine that would have been like for her? And then the last example I want to share, the last sort of story of heroes that I want to share. This is two soldiers who served in the Korean War. One was named Hiroshi Miyamar. He was from, I think it was Lubbock, Texas, a small town in Texas. And the other is Joe Anello. So these were young men. This was taken at a ceremony at the White House not too long ago. So Hiroshi was obviously Japanese American, and he had a passion to serve because Lubbock, Texas was one of the few places in the country that did not inter Japanese Americans during World War II. So he had a great desire to give back to this nation that stood by him at that point. From that small town in Texas. Joe, on the other hand, was he was a big city kid from the East Coast. And the two came together. It's the first time that Joe said he had ever met an Asian American man, Japanese American man. But they quickly discovered that they had a great deal in common, and they were assigned together and eventually found themselves serving on the border between North and South Korea. Their platoon was charged with defending, I think it was like 500 yards of territory with 22 men, and they were there for a number of months. And then one night, a cloud-filled night with a moonless sky, they noticed that there was this dark mass moving toward them, and it was the Chinese army moving to take the spot back, or take the spot. And so with the 22 men, they held off for close to 3 hours. And during that time, Joe had been shot twice in the leg. He was also wounded. He could feel a large hole near his spine in the back, could not walk. When they call him Hershey, when Hershey realized that it was hopeless, he manned the last remaining artillery gun, and he shouted at his men to make their escape. He would do everything he could to sort of cover them so that they could escape safely. Eventually, they were overtaken, they were defeated, and all of them captured. And as on the road, the guards were marching them back to prisoner of war camp, and on the way, Hershey was carrying his friend Joe, carrying and half dragging him, knowing that Joe couldn't walk. And they fell so far behind that the guards at the back finally forced Hershey to leave Joe behind. Both of them knowing full well that that was probably the last time that they would see one another. That would probably mean that Joe would die there on the side of that road. As the story continues, Joe didn't die. A couple of days later, he was moved to another POW camp with a bunch of other wounded soldiers, and there was one soldier among them who could still walk. They hatched this plan for him to escape, and miracle of miracles, eventually they were all rescued and returned to the hospital back in the United States. Back in the US, Joe really wanted to know what was going on with Hershey, knowing that full well that he had been captured and was in a POW camp, and for years he watched for his return, never finding any sign of him, never knowing how to get in touch with him. Until one day he was paging through an issue of Newsweek, and he saw a picture there of Hershey shaking President Eisenhower's hand because he was receiving a Medal of Honor. So Joe got on the phone and found out that Hershey was back in Texas working in his father's auto body shop. And so he made the trip back, and the two of them reunited, both of them believing the other two have died long ago, and had this incredible call to courage, to maintain that courage, right? Even after all they had been through, they hatched themselves another mission. And for years, the two of them spent touring high schools, talking about the values for which they fought and that so many died, so that young people would continue to understand the importance of defending freedom. So that's about the time frame that you saw in the picture that we saw. So as you think back through that experience, like, what are the pieces of that would really drive them to be able to demonstrate the kind of courage that they did? I'm looking, now I wanted to look kind of back through what y'all are sharing on the chat stream. See if we're on the same page. For Hecky, yeah. For Hecky, it was about passion and love dissipating any fear that could exist. Yeah, thank you, Maria. We saw him do that. If Hecky, in fact, I saw one quote. There's a street here that was renamed in honor of Hecky. It's called Hecky's Way, and I saw that when City Council was deciding how to name that street, it was simply because if you were working with Hecky, it was always going to be his way. So yeah, we've seen that passion and love, and we know how that worked for him. God is our source in all things and circumstances. Yes, thank you, Candace. Yeah, I think definitely Hecky knew that, especially in his healing story, but also knowing that that's true for all of us, right, through everything. From Kate Jordan, whenever we walk into our greatness, we act with courage. So coming from our own greatness, we walk the path we're guided regardless of what others think, and act with courage. Yes. And sometimes we have a kind uncle who coaches us, as Mordecai did, right? That there's always other support around us. Esther, she urges us to take responsibility, and standing up for others, we stand up for ourselves. Yeah, I think those are all beautiful. The refusal to accept injustice, righteous spirit-filled anger. And then she apologizes. Thank you, Carol. Yes, but there is a sense of coming from an awareness of what is righteous and where justice does prevail. And sometimes that is fueled by anger. But if we use our anger and our pain and our suffering in a way that moves us forward, right? Not in a way that drags us into a deeper sense of hopelessness, but that sort of allows us to see that light at the end, then I think that's when courage rises up in us. When we can see that we can have an impact that will truly make a difference beyond ourselves. It's like there's a way in which we start to know our oneness and our connection to others. That's what I saw about the soldiers especially. It was about recognizing that their gifts could support others in continuing to live productive lives. From Alyssa Foster, I feel strengthened when I return to a place of love rather than fear and sadness and defeat. Yeah, and I know many of us have very different practices that we use to return to that place of being centered in love. So I want to share with you, as we get ready to move toward a time of meditation, I want to share with you another hero of mine. This is Cheryl Giudice, Hecky's wife, who has just been incredible through all of this. When Hecky was hospitalized on Wednesday morning, or actually he went in the hospital, getting my days confused, all running together, I think Wednesday night. So Thursday morning and all through Friday, we held a Zoom vigil. Many of you participated in that. Thank you. And so Cheryl wrote back and just wanted me to share this with all of you. She said she was writing because she wants me to convey to our church family her deepest appreciation for their prayers and positive energy as Hecky made his transition. While it may all seem so sudden, it really wasn't. I am at peace as I see how divine order unfold over the past 4 days. I see how this too is good, this too is God, this too is for me, and I see the blessing in it. Hugs, Cheryl. So just this amazing capacity. She's actually quoting back a series of affirmations that I borrowed from another Unity minister for a sermon not too long ago. But to be able to stand in that place, I think, takes incredible courage, incredible awareness and belief in the power and the conviction of good unfolding. And so that's, I think, what we honor. That's what we want to be tapping into as we move forward through whatever our own process is around coming to terms with the losses. Whether you knew Hecky or not, in this time of COVID-19, we are all experiencing loss at a whole lot of levels. So I invite you to just maybe even consider Cheryl as kind of an example of what it looks like to be able to stand in truth and see the good that lies beyond this, because there is always good that lies beyond this. All right, we're going to do meditation a little bit differently than we normally do. We are privileged to have among us, among our membership, a member of the Army Corps Bugle Brigade. It's not, I don't have the title right, but he is definitely a bugler who serves at military funerals by playing taps. And so he and his partner went out and made a beautiful movie, a recording of him playing taps underneath a flag fluttering at Calvary Cemetery here in Evanston yesterday. So we will open by being serenaded by Kent Stanton. And that's a powerful piece of music for most people. I just invite you to let that open your heart. And then Martin Taylor will be moving us into a space of meditation by sharing a reading that, and this is cool too, talk about serendipity. Hecky passed on May 22. This reading was from May 22 and speaks beautifully. So I would just invite you to listen to the power of both the music and this reading, and then we'll move into a time of silence and just let your heart move into a space of courageous being, that we might be that presence of love and light.
So this reading is from the book In the Silence, 365 Days of Inspiration from Spirit, edited by Suzanne Giesemann. It's called Win-Win. You lay to rest your most beloved. How can I go on without them? First, understand they are not resting. They are more active than you are now that they no longer drag around that cumbersome body. They visit you often now, for when you think of them, they feel it. It is you who feel sorrow, but do not feel it for the one who has moved on. Treat yourself lovingly as you adjust to this new chapter in your life. The giant hole is mainly the physical presence. Fill this by bringing to mind all the more love you have experienced by them in your life. What will you do with that love? Why, go out and give it to those who need it, those who did not know the love you shared with your loved one. Translate what appears to be a loss into a gain on a greater scale. Give that love in memory of the one who still walks with you, and you are allowing their love to live on. You will see them again, and when you do, you can celebrate the loving use you put to the love they brought this world. Now that is a win-win situation instead of a loss. And so it is, and so we let it be. Amen.
How can I say anything but thank you? And how can I say anything but grace? 'Cause everything in front of me is heaven, everywhere and every place. Every pleasure, every pain, every joy and every heartache. So I say thank you. And I say grace. And everything in front of me is heaven, everywhere and every place. Every pleasure, every pain, every joy and every heartache.
So let's just stay in this wonderful spiritual energy as we prepare now to receive our tithes and offerings. Our center and ministries are completely supported through your tithes and offerings. While it may be tempting to hold tight during times of uncertainty, remember that giving, tithing, and sharing our good raises our spiritual consciousness. At Unity on the North Shore, we're proud that we practice the law of giving and receiving by tithing. We tally up all unrestricted income we receive, and then we write a check totaling 10% of those gifts to organizations or individuals who have nurtured or empowered us as a spiritual community. We also share our tithes with others whose work supports our mission of co-creating a world that works for all. And if you're joining us from another spiritual community, we are so happy to have you with us. And please remember to support your home church. Giving in the time of sequestering is safe and simple. Links and instructions are being entered in the chat stream now. You can text 815-827-6052. You can mail a check to 3434 Central Street, Evanston, Illinois, or you can give online on our website. Your generosity empowers us to continue our work toward creating a world that works for all by sharing principles and practices for abundant spiritual living. So now let's bless our giving and receiving with our usual offertory blessing. Together, divine love as me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is. Amen.
How can I say anything but thank you? And how can I say anything but grace? When everything in front of me is a miracle. Every line on every face, every handshake, every embrace. And I say grace.
Thank you so much, Bob and Shannon. The words to your music are just beautiful. And you can check out Bob and Shannon on their YouTube channel. And don't forget to join us on our Facebook group and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And there's a photograph of Bob and Shannon, so check them out. And now, Kate.
Good morning, everybody. Andy is Zoom bombing today. He wanted to share the youth component with me, so if you hear some purring, that's him. But anyway, in Soul School today online, we are wrapping up our 3-class series on forgiveness from Spiritual Playdate. Today's lesson was about the important lesson of forgiving ourselves. And so part of that process was we drew pictures of past things of regret, things that we want to forgive ourselves for. We ripped those up into tiny pieces and created a new picture of love and light, turning that bad situation into a positive situation. In YOU, April led a lesson from the 12 powers about the power of power and how that's specifically important right now, using our own power of power to not only get through this time, but to thrive in this time. And we have a special event next week. We're going to ask for your help, families, for children and teens, and even those who have graduated. If you have college graduates in your family, please look for, you can send those to me, but we're looking for still photos and videos of 30 seconds or less of you and your students graduate, absolutely celebrating the end of school. Yeah. So whatever you've got, whether it's still photos or videos, brief videos, again, 30 seconds or less, please send those in. I'll be sending out an email today with the address that you can send those to. And we thank Sammy and John Blix ahead of time for all the work they're going to be doing, putting that together. And so we look forward to celebrating the end of school with all of you next week. That it, Andy? That's it. Thanks.
Are we doing the youth blessing, Kate?
Oh, we are. Couldn't miss that. Together, for our children and teens, we say, we love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, we behold the Christ as you, and we see you doing great things.
Thanks for joining us today. And please do not hesitate if you have a prayer request. You can do it online. You can call Unity on the North Shore. Online prayer support is available. And coming up next will be our virtual garden chat. And don't forget to join us next week and let friends and family know about Unity on the North Shore. And Bob and Shannon will be leading us in our peace song.
Actually, we're switching it up, right? We're doing something different? Yeah,
We're gonna do
great.
that song that we discussed. So you guys, you get to hear that peace song every week, but we just thought that we would do a different song, and we were talking about it with Reverend Kurt, and he said, well, Hecky was a mover and a shaker, so this is a song about peace, but it's also a song about movers and shakers. It's called The Movers, the Shakers, and the Peacemakers. So y'all can get a little, you can get involved if you want. It's a good sing-along. So for all of you and for Hecky. With our eyes wide shut in the still of the night, we sit and hold the vision. When the fears burn wild, we don't run and hide. We see a world with no division. We see with one love, one heart, one drum beating to a song that's singing us home. We dance in white light under the starlight. We are the sacred seeds of the sound of Om. And we say, Aho, Amen, Om Shanti Om. And we say, Aho, Amen, Om Shanti Om. We are the movers and the shakers and the peacemakers. We are the movers and the shakers and the peacemakers. Well, in your eyes I see my other side, your perfectly clear reflection. There are no others, there's only one mother. She's taking us in one direction. Love is our weapon, music our religion. Peace is our power, peace is our mission. We don't separate or dominate, we appreciate, we celebrate, and we say, Aho, sing it, Amen, Om Shanti Om. And we say, Aho, Amen, Om Shanti like a virtual clap along with us? Come on. We are the movers and the shakers and the peacemakers. We are the movers and the shakers and the peacemakers, and we can go higher, higher, higher still, and we can get louder, louder, louder. Yes, we will. We feel the power in the presence. It's the all, it's the essence, and in it we own this space. We don't get lost in thought or drown in the drama. We're the guardians of this place. We see with one love, one heart, one drum beating to a song that's singing us home. We dance in white light under the moonlight. We are the sacred seeds of the sound of Om. We say Aho, Amen, Om Shanti Om. And we say Aho, Amen, Om Shanti Om. We are the movers and the shakers and the peacemakers. We are the movers and the shakers and the peacemakers. We're gonna send you guys a little a note, and we're gonna put in here. We want to send you the lyrics to that song that we did in the beginning. I feel like we wrote it for anybody who's made their transition. It's a song of legacy. So take a look in the notes there. We're just going to offer to give you that song. If you just drop us an email, we'll send you a digital copy of that song. And there's the lyrics for you. So Reverend Kurt, thank you for having us today. And it was an honor to be here on this auspicious day. And in Evanston today for that procession. That sounds really powerful.
Thank you. And one day we'll get you up here.
We will definitely be there.
So now, let's finish as we usually do by saying together the prayer for protection. The words will be on your screen. The light of God surrounds us. I am light. The love of God enfolds us. I am love. The power of God protects us. I am power. The presence of God watches over us. I am presence. Wherever we are, God is. I am divine. Happy Sunday, everyone. Garden Chat starts immediately after the service, which is right now. And you don't need to